Hey John, you had 4b and 6c. So let me just do here. So get 4b. They're both second derivative questions, so there's a lot of similarities going on here. I guess you said a lot of similarities is that are both second derivatives. So what we know is that the first derivative is 2x minus y. So the first derivative is 2x minus y. So if I take the derivative of that, second derivative is 2 minus the derivative of y. So it's the second derivative is 2 minus the derivative of y. But y is this, so I can actually substitute 2x minus y in, and I get 2 minus 2x plus y. Now, don't panic there. It's like, we'll say, what do I do? Well, in the second quadrant, x is positive and y is negative. So look what happens. The 2 is positive. Oh, crap. Okay, that's wrong. Negative and positive. So the x is negative and the y is positive. If x is negative times a negative is a positive. So I got a positive, positive, positive. So I can be guaranteed that it's going to always be bigger than 0. Just if I'm in quadrant 2, that's not going to work in other quadrants necessarily. But because the 2 is positive and this 2 is negative, but we're multiplying it by a negative, this is going to be positive, and since y is positive, 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 bigger than 0. So if the second derivative is bigger than 0, we know that y is concave up. So if I were to do, slope field in the second quadrant, which we didn't, in the second quadrant, all the slopes would have to be going up at that point. No, sorry, crap, that's not, disregard that last piece, because that would be about first derivative. This is about second derivatives. Ignore that last little bit there. Hopefully this answers your question. That when the first derivative, we can take the derivative and get the second derivative. We do have to do a little bit of substitution, but what we'll notice if we're in quadrant 2, all of those will be positive, so the whole thing has to be positive, and if the second derivative is always positive, then we know it's concave up. Disregard that slope field thing, that's first derivative. Okay, 6b. Somewhat similar question, well, because it's about second derivative of a weird function. I'm looking for that here. The first derivative is y over 3y squared minus x. So so same thing. We need this derivative. This is a much more painful question. Second derivative, so it's going to be bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative, oh crap, okay, no, times the derivative of the bottom, so that's 6y, y prime minus 1, all over the bottom squared. Sorry, I thought I did something wrong, I think I'm good. Let's just double check it though. So the bottom function times the derivative of the top minus the top function times the derivative of the bottom. Don't remember, the derivative of y is y prime, and the derivative of y squared is 2y y prime, but we have the 3 there, so we get the 6. Now, they do tell us they're doing this at the point x equals negative 1, y equals 1. So when I go to do that, let me switch colors here. Where there's a y, I'm going to put the 1. So I'm going to put the 1 here, here, and here. Where there's the x, I'm going to put negative 1. Negative 1, 1. And now the y prime, that's the tricky one, right? We need the y prime a couple times, but we can do that here. And I think we did that earlier in the question. I think we did that in A. We know it's 1/4. You can redo it again, of course. You put the 1 here and the 1 here and the negative 1 here. So you get 1 over 3 plus 1, you get 1/4. So what do I get here? Let me switch colors. I think this green is not working so great. I'm going to switch back to black. I think that black words made it better in the video too. 3 plus 1 times 1/4 minus 1 times 6 times 1/4 minus 1 all over 3 plus 1 squared. Now this is really important. Well, it's not really important, it's kind of stupid, but in terms of how the AP grades it, don't do anything. Leave it there, okay? It does simplify to 1 over 32. I'm gonna do that because in a normal math class you would have to do that, but be aware that in this particular case you don't. So I get 4 times 1/4 minus 1 times 6/4 minus 1 over 4 squared is 16. So I get 1 minus 1/2 over 16. I get 1/2 over 16, which is 1 over 32. But I do want to be clear, as soon as, you can't leave it here, as soon as there are only numbers, there's no more variables in the question, the AP exam will accept that answer. So they were both second derivative questions. Both of them had the same feature. When you took the second derivative, you had to resubstitute the derivative of y in there. Hopefully that answers your questions. If it doesn't, just send me something back.